Welcome to the inaugural episode of Breakfast with Boom. Also, it happens to be May the 4th be with you, so happy Star Wars Day. And I just want to say right out of the gate, I could not thank the community enough for bringing me to this part in my life. I have honestly never thought that not only would I be on a podcast, but that I would be fortunate enough and have the gumption enough to launch my own show. So first and foremost, I want to thank everybody for coming out today. This is a big day for me, and I'm glad that everyone in the chat is going to be a part of it. We're gonna turn it right over to two very special people in my life, two people that I know for well over 25 years that have a tremendous amount of gaming. We're first going to start with my brother, and he's literally from another mother, and that is going to be Neo Mental, also known in different parts of the world as Mr. Shenanigans. Dude, welcome to the show. Thank you for helping me out with this.
Well, good morning, and thank you for that amazing intro. This is my first ever on the interwebs, so May the 4th be with you all, and good morning. I'm excited to be here.
Awesome. And now we're going to move on to the second guest that you may not have heard of, but you should, because he not only is the biggest Kiss fan this side of Texas, but he's one of my best friends, and we know each other for well over 25 years. He is Jay the Destroyer. What's up, dude? Thanks so much for coming on the podcast. Welcome.
Thank you so much. May the 4th be with you also. And yeah, I just had a lisp there. And I'm excited, dude. This is awesome.
Well, thank you guys so much for coming out. Listen, we're going to rip off the Band-Aid, and we're going to jump right into these topics. But we're going to start off with, we're going to go a little light. We're going to start off with the hottest thing since sliced bread that was cut with Kratos' axe, and that is, of course, the God of War phenomenon. Everyone knows that I've been tweeting about this game like a gushing little girl. And I obviously feel like a tourist because at every corner of that game, I'm stopping and taking pictures and posting it on Twitter. The game is an absolute gorgeous, modern masterpiece. It is my personal game of the year for 2018 so far. The only thing I could see knocking it off its perch is if Resident Evil 2 Remake happens to launch this year. And we'll talk about that later on in the episode. But everyone knows my take. We're going to start off with Jay the Destroyer. You're a big single player guy like myself. What is your take on this phenomenon?
3.1 million copies in the first 3 days?
Yes, that is correct. That has been confirmed.
I mean, that's incredible. It's just a great game. I mean, I'm probably a couple hours into it. I wish I had more time. But, man, those couple hours have been amazing. I mean, honestly, the best graphics I've seen in ages, and just everything about it. It's almost perfect. It's practically a perfect game.
Excellent. I mean, listen, again, it's one of those games you don't want to stop playing, and you think about when you're at work. And that's how you know you have a great title. So now we're going to move on to my brother, Mr. Shenanigans. What's your take on it? Because I know that you work a lot. You put in long hours, and sometimes, besides playing in the division with me and the rest of our crew, you just want to sit down and play a solid single-player game. What's your take on it?
Well, I just beat it Tuesday. Yeah, I loved it. It was an awesome game.
How long did it take you?
Well, I mean, I played it since launch. I kind of I left the crew hanging. I wasn't playing division or anything. And so I figured, a week and a half, almost 2 weeks now? Yeah. Okay. And I was playing it a lot. Like I was really loving it. I mean, I gave it like a 9.5 out of 10. There was a few issues here and there, but yeah, I mean, the game's amazing. Kudos to them. They got it right.
Well, look, all I know is that they just recently said that they have 5 games lined up. And I'm going to tell you this right now. I've seen some stuff on Twitter where people were saying something to the effect, well, there's nearly 80 million consoles and only, 3.1. Well, I mean, that's in the first 3 days. The game is now out 2 weeks as of today. So we don't know the rest of the numbers. I am going to say that the PlayStation Nation is very vocal about their first-party games, and I implore anyone who owns a PlayStation 4 to buy this game. When you support God of War, you are saying yes to single-player games in this industry, and that goes for, again, numbers make a difference, and I think that God of War might have put the exclamation point for the single player, whether or not it's relevant in 2018 and beyond. Because I know Microsoft, we know that they are the kings of service-based games. We also know that when they release a single player title, almost 9 out of 10 times, it's going to be an amazing single player experience, but it's going to have a multiplayer portion attached to it that gets people excited. And of course, I'm referring to right away is the two, cornerstones of the Xbox franchise, and that's Halo and Gears. But what I really appreciate about Cory Barlog and that team was that they took 5 years to make a game that turned out to be, like I said before, it is a modern masterpiece. Now, again, I understand that it may not be your thing. Maybe you're just a multiplayer kind of a person, but I think that at one point or another, you just want to sit and not have to wait to hook up with your friends. You just want to play a game that has an emotional story, literally from the moment it starts to the end of it. And I haven't beaten it yet, but I've put 50 hours in, and I am slowly churning out that game because I don't want to rush to beat it. I want to explore every corner and nook and cranny. So now what I'm going to do is, we've all said our piece, and I just want to say a couple of gigantic shout outs to the chat, because obviously this is where, I can say without a doubt, I would not be here without some of these people in here. So we're going to look at it, and we're going to say right out of the gate, UK Dazarus, big friend of mine, huge personality on YouTube and Twitter. Who else we got here? Try Hard fan, good friend of mine. Thanks for showing up. We're also going to look into who else is over here. Rock Dog 31, Free Jack. Thanks for showing up. Birdie Mac, good friend of mine. Thank you again for showing up. Old School Style, my brother. Thank you for showing up today. It's greatly appreciated. I don't know how to pronounce it, but I'm going to say it. It's Shonusu. So if I said it wrong, I'm sorry, but I just want to thank you guys for turning out for the first episode. It's greatly appreciated, and I would not be here without the people in the community and the people in the chat. So now what we're going to do is I'm going to segue right into, I think, that a very important topic, and that is single player versus the multiplayer experience. And I'd like to know where you guys like to play. See, I like multiplayer games. Obviously, I tout about The Division, Destiny. I've played a few matches of Gears of War, and I suck. I played Halo, obviously. I go back to my Halo days with my brother, Neo Mento. We used to train in Halo 2 to make sure that we were good to play online. But I'm more of a single player guy. I like a strong story. I like the Ubisoft method that they have with their games, with giant open worlds that are collectathons, a million side missions to do. You really kind of get your money with those games. But I want to hear from Neo Mental. What's your take on the single player versus multiplayer? How important is it to you as a gamer for it to have a little bit of both? And what do you prefer?
I mean, you have to have variety. I mean, I get where there's a lot of problems with multiplayer games. If you don't have a consistent crew, or if you don't have like friends you're comfortable with, multiplayer games can be frustrating. That was the biggest problem I had. I mean, when Destiny came out, me and you were playing it, and then you kind of faded away from it, and trying to get the raid together with 6 people at the time was impossible. So then, I had a guy at my job. He was on a PlayStation. He had a constant raid crew. He was like, look, come over here and play. So I didn't have the PS4 at the time. That was, 3 years ago?
Yeah.
And then I jumped on board, and, man, it was a constant raiding. It was great. And then I hooked up with the Safe Gamers over there on the PlayStation. some of the games of Destiny. A lot of great people I played with over there. So the multiplayer experience, man, was fun. I mean, I remember being in the raid till like 3 in the morning and having to get for work at 4. So, yeah, a lot of great times. But I mean, single player games, the stories, I love stories, so I like them both. I just, I like a balance, But and then you look at like Sea of Thieves. I mean, it's a decent game, but no one else was playing it. So I'm going into a game dolo, and it sucks. You're playing the game and you get ganked at a friggin' at the base. It's like, what's the point in this? Like, I don't like just joining all the randoms. I want to be with my people. A lot of my day ones on the Xbox. I want to play with those guys. I want to enjoy the games with them because that makes it even more fun. So I mean, it has to be a balance. I think that they both have their pluses and minuses. I love playing both.
All right, well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, obviously, we have a couple of really strong multiplayer games that are still lingering from last year. I mean, and the year prior. I mean, obviously, I don't know if anyone's really excited for Destiny. I think they kind of lost all their fan base due to their, the way they decided to, go forward with the Destiny 2. But I want to hear from you. I want to hear from Jada the Destroyer, because I know that you don't usually play multiplayer games. I mean, you have, and we have. When Titanfall came out, we had a blast. Yeah. Titanfall 2, we had a blast. Yeah. But you're more of a single player guy. How important is the ideology that single player games will still be made and can still make money moving forward in 2018?
Well, I hope that's the case, to be honest with you. But I mean, when something like Fortnite comes out and really just, takes everybody by storm, it shows the industry that, multiplayer and stuff like that could be the, the prevalent way that we're moving into the future. But I hope not, because I just like feeling like I'm on a roller coaster. I want to have someone give me a story, and those kind of games, they get a lot of emotion out of me. And multiplayer games, while you can have a great time with them, they don't hit you in that special area, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And I just think that if we keep moving into, I think the market is going to get completely saturated with all this, with a lot of. Well, first we're going into the battle royale. We're moving into that.
Yes.
And
everybody's coming out with one. It's almost ridiculous.
Every game have battle royale in it, because I think Fortnite does it right. I have a friend who plays Fortnite like 24 hours a day.
I believe it.
Shout out to you, Reptar. But I really just want to have a single player that just shows me new worlds, brings me to new places. And also, you have to also understand that with multiplayer stuff, it's very intimidating if you don't jump into it on the first day or week. And I don't like jumping into a lot of multiplayer stuff after it's come out, because I'm always worried that I'm just going to get my ass handed to me, which 9 times out of 10 happens. So, that's, you got to stay current on that and stay sharp. And a lot of people don't have the time for that.
Well, I mean, you're right. There's definitely a time factor. Family, life gets involved. Always gets in the way. Responsibilities, family. You still have to somehow find a fine line to be in these games, because if a game like Destiny, for instance, if you miss a couple of weeks, your friends are way ahead of you, and you feel like you're coming in and they have to literally carry you through until you're able to get powered up.
I won't even go back to Destiny because I'm so afraid I'm just going to walk in there and just be obliterated, which I will. And that really sort of sucks. But with those multiplayer games, if you stick with them and you get good and you're really into it, then, I totally get it.
Well, I am going to say this. I'm hoping that, okay, because there's 2 tales to this story. they reported the other day that Fortnite, a free-to-play game, made $233 million last month, which is absolutely astonishing. Like, it's a free-to-play game, and they made $233 million. So that is good news for Epic, bad news for the industry, because we are now, like you were saying earlier, we're moving into a realm where everyone wants to jump in and get a piece of this cash. And I did a story on my channel the other day where Phil Spencer actually said that they're not going to be doing a BR system for Halo and Gears. And that was like a big sigh of relief, because I don't want to see any of this stuff shoehorned in. I really don't. I think it would be...
I want to say this. I think everyone's kind of jerking PUBG because, I mean, they did it first. So
yes,
it's a PUBG mode.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I hate to say this, PUBG is really just a mode of another game, you know, so everyone copies everyone. Yeah. It is amazing to me that with all the money that was made in PUBG, that the game isn't optimized to run like a Fortnite. I kind of wonder what
after 5,000 patches.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I played a little bit of it. I'm terrible at it. I don't really care for the BR type of game. You know, a perfect example of that is you have Red Dead Redemption 2 coming out at the end of the year. Obviously, it's going to have a magnificent story, but then they're already saying that, you know, it's going to have a possible BR mode. And I have no interest in that. The heists, which, you know, are currently available on GTA 5, I could see getting into. But for the most part, you know, the multiplayer aspect, the three of us, we know each other for a very long time. We grew up with the NES and the Sega Master System. So back then, if you wanted to play co-op, somebody was sitting next to you. And for the most part, back in those days, because we're old bastards, that we had to wait for your turn to be over to play. Multiplayer, obviously, over online, and even couch co-op is, you know, is big. It's coming back. So I'm happy for that. But I would definitely play single player before multiplayer any day of the week. So now what we're going to do is we're going to move into a topic that I think is important. And it is one that I have been known to talk about on numerous podcasts, as well as do numerous videos. And that is marketing within the industry. I think saying marketing 101 is a simplified term of how easy it should be. And I want to know from you guys, how important is a strong marketing team to a console's lifespan? So we're going to start off with Jada Destroyer. What's your take on the whole marketing thing that's going on right now, or the lack of marketing with certain companies?
I think the thing is with marketing is, like, you could look at it twofold. You could look at it as marketing to the hardcore, and then you could look at marketing to everyone else. We all we met in retail, the three of us.
Yep.
And we know that marketing, if you really want to get outside of the hardcore, that's really pretty much it. Let's be honest. That's the message. You got to get to those parents. You got to get to, you know, the aunts, the uncles, the grandmas, the grandpas. And once you get to that, that's when you have, you know, that's when you have a PlayStation, and that's when you have a Wii. And the marketing in 2018, honestly, I don't know. I feel like it's more hardcore driven. It's super important, but I don't really see them. I don't really see any of these campaigns, at least to me, really hitting that, you know, mothers and fathers. And I feel like a lot of it is hardcore based, but there's not a lot of it. So that's the weird part.
All right. Well, that makes perfect sense. I mean, look, I'm going to say this. I have been on the marketing bandwagon for each company, and there are certain companies that don't really need it, that sell themselves, which is, I'm referring to, of course, is Nintendo. They just They are like the Disney of video games. There is a certain magic.
Let me ask you a quick question now that you're saying Nintendo.
Yeah.
I don't know if you read I don't think they've put out exact numbers yet, but the word on the street is that Labo is not as successful as they expected it to be within the first 2 weeks.
Yes, and you are correct. You're correct in saying that. I know that you bought it because you have two young kids, and they enjoy it.
They love it.
But you know what the problem is? The problem is with the Labo or Labo, if that's how you pronounce it, is
Labo,
that the pricing. Yeah, the pricing is outrageous. But you know what? We'll touch on that in a sec. I just want to just keep on with the marketing. I don't want to get too much off topic. No, that's cool. So obviously, a company like Nintendo, their products pretty much sell themselves. You tell me if Microsoft or Sony would come to E3 and literally tell you a month before, we're only showing one game, and what the fans would lose their S, right? They would be like, what do you mean one game? This is E3, it's the biggest time. And they did that 2 years in a row. They started off with Zelda, and then they the next year they did Super Mario Odyssey. This year it's going to be Smash Brothers, and they could get away with it because their fan base is, anyone from 45 years old to 5 years old. So it is the Disney effect. Then you move into Sony, and this is where I don't want anyone to get salty about this, but I tip my hat to them because their marketing, they just know how to market a game. They take a title like God of War, where it sells 3.1 million copies in 3 days. Who knows what it's sold by now? I mean, it could be 5, it could be 6, it could be 10. We don't know. But they really go. And you have to admit that, we're all, tech heads, right? So we go to YouTube and we go to Twitter and we watch. Every time a commercial pops up, either on TV or on your tablet, your phone, your PC, your whatever, you're seeing a PlayStation commercial. It is, the marketing is just not to be believed. And then we're going to move into Microsoft, which everyone knows is literally my favorite place to game. I'm not a fanboy because I support everything, and I will give props to each individual company. But Microsoft's marketing for quite some time has been very poor. I like Aaron Greenberg. I think the guy is dynamic. He does interact with the fans. But I think that, like, for instance, State of Decay 2 comes out in a couple of weeks. And last week we saw a tweet from I'm not sure who it was, but it was saying that they just had their elevator doors laminated with the State of Decay Art Deco. And of course, that's cool if it's for public use. That's not exciting when it's in the Microsoft building. You understand what I'm saying? Like, I know that they get visitors, but you're not going to get marketing unless you're in the stores, and again, I don't know who they're trying to market to sometimes. So I'm going to just pass this over, because I've been rambling on for what seems like forever, to Neo Mental. Like, what is your take on the marketing phenomenon? How important do you feel it is to a company's success?
I mean, it's extremely important. I mean, I think like Jay said before, we all met. I mean, we all worked at Funkoland before it was GameStop. So we've all had interactions with different marketing people. And without marketing, without word of mouth, it's hard to do anything. And I mean, what a lot of people don't realize is that everyone is a company, So Microsoft says, all right, well, our marketing department, we're going to give them $100 million to do marketing. And then they do their marketing and it's great. And then, things happen and they say, well, your division's not doing what we wanted to do, or we want to pull out money and put into another division. So your 100 million marketing budget goes down to $10 million. So now you can't do the same things you used to do before. I remember when the Microsoft guys, when the Xbox first came out, man, they said they sent all the managers a system. We had free games. They had you send us games every month. We kept getting stuff. So it was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna put Microsoft in the front of the store. I'm gonna put it on all the machines, all of this and that. And then that stuff drops down. Then you don't see the Microsoft rep. He's not coming into the store. He's not making sure that the signage is right. He's not making sure that you have prominent displays. So when that starts happening, and then someone else picks up that slack, well, what's going to happen? Now Sony's now in the front of the store. So someone comes in, the first thing they see is all Sony stuff. Well, that's what I'm going to gravitate to. I remember the manager for Best Buy had came in, and he was telling about some of their practices. What Sony would do is they would say, listen, Best Buy, we want to push this PlayStation, right? So if you don't order a certain amount of systems and games and accessories and put signage where we wanted to, we're going to slow down your Sony TVs and your Sony computers and your Sony this and that. Sony has a lot of power, So what's Best Buy going to do? All right, well, screw Microsoft. Push them, 25 feet to the left. We put PlayStation 25 feet to the front. Now what happens? Somebody walks in, boom. That's what they're going to pick up on. So, I mean, it depends on who's putting money where. And Microsoft has clearly shifted their marketing down. They don't have as many teams as they used to. They haven't really adapted with the time. So what happens is, they've kind of fallen in a different place. They need to switch to more guerrilla marketing. I mean, how many YouTubers and, guys that are out there will pump the product if you say, hey, listen, here's a free game, move that over, it's very, very important.
Well, the issue that I think, and I've said this on numerous podcasts, Microsoft has a perception problem.
Boom, let me ask you a quick question. I'm sorry to cut you off. You're talking about Microsoft. Let me ask both of you guys, how do you feel like, and I'm just throwing it out there because it's been bothering me for a while, how do you feel that they've handled the Game Pass? Because me personally, I feel like they've dropped the ball on the Game Pass, that it's an awesome service. For the most part, I mean, there are times that, like just recently, yesterday, when they added in those, when they announced those couple of new games, and then they're just like, obviously the pillars are the State of Decays, the Crackdown 3s, the Microsoft, first party stuff. But let me get back to my question. I'm sorry. It's a great service, and I just feel that almost nobody knows about it.
Yeah, well, I'm going to jump right in, if you don't mind, Neo. Here's the thing. Again, a failure would be lightly speaking. I think that for someone who basically has been labeled as the guy that buys everything, I'm sitting on nearly 730 titles for the Xbox One. And that, of course, includes OG Xbox and Xbox 360. I've joked that I'm running 13 terabytes on my X, and I'm not afraid to download games. What is shocking to me in regards to Marketing 101 is that this service, no other gaming company supplies or offers a service this stout for $10 a month. And if you're a savvy kind of a shopper, you can go to eBay and pick up codes for 1 month for as low as $3. Like, I bought 3 months worth of Game Pass just the other day, and I spent $15. So I'm literally getting 3 months for the price of one and some change for a service that Microsoft has. They're the first one to market with the so-called Netflix of gaming, right? They said, we're going to have 100 titles. Well, they currently have 160 plus titles. And you know what? Some of their biggest first-party IPs are there. Now, there are some missing. I'd like to see them get a couple of Forzas in there. I don't think Quantum Break is in there. That would be a nice one to get in there to the fans, because that's a fantastic game, even though Neo Mental just bought it. Sorry about that, bud.
But you got to admit that there's a lot of junk in there too. And
yes, there is a lot of filler,
a lot of total junk.
Yeah.
But I know why it's there to pump up the number. I get it, but I just don't want, as crazy as it sounds, the junk I want to see just inserted in there, but I don't want them to make announcements about it. I don't want to see that they're adding in junk.
I agree. That's a great point. But here's the thing. The Game Pass launched, I want to say, maybe 4 or 5 months ago, maybe, give or take. And I don't see any commercials. I mean, think about this for a second. You want to get people to join your service that are not hardcore gamers. You put it on TV and you say, State of Decay 2, you do a State of Decay 2 zombie commercial. Spend a couple of bucks, right? Do a live action zombie commercial. And at the end of that commercial, pumping out you're supposed to be a AAA, even though it's a $30 title, it's still a big title for Microsoft. And then you finish it up, get it on Game Pass for $10 a month. You know what I'm saying? Like, there have been no commercials that are telling people that this service exists. I mean, you'll see it on your dashboard for your Xbox, but you're already an Xbox gamer. We're not trying to get you. We're trying to get the mom and pops. The parents that have 2 kids and are on a budget, and their kids want new games. And how better can they afford it? Oh, at $10 a month, I'm getting new games all the time put into this thing.
Boom, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, and I've experienced this, I have a lot of friends who are Xbox gamers who sign on and see that ad pop up, and I tell them about the Game Pass, and they're like, "What's the Game Pass?" So there's a bigger problem. There's a bigger problem than just getting to the mom and pops.
Well, I think it's still a fairly new program. I mean, I think they're still, I don't want to say that they're trying to figure it out, but I mean, you look at the obvious comparison is Netflix. When Netflix first came out, nobody was looking for the on-demand stuff. I remember getting Netflix and I was only using it for the DVDs at the time. Because they had nothing but like old black and white movies and stuff like that. There's nothing wrong with those movies, but I mean, I wasn't getting Netflix to stream. And then over time, they built up enough that they could start cranking some stuff out. I don't think that Microsoft was going to spend a lot of money to put fresh games in the Game Pass and then be like, hey, here's your alternative. I think that they wanted to put it out, see what was going to go, keep pushing forward, and start building stuff into it. I think it was smart for them. They had to put Sea of Thieves in Game Pass because I think that they needed to bulk up their servers, and having something like that, especially with all the free codes and trials that they had, to put people in there. Same thing with State of Decay. I mean, you're not going to see third-party games in there. It's just not going to happen unless they're like 3 or 4 years old. But I think it's going to take them a while to get momentum, and I think that they're going to have to, like you said, advertise a little bit better. But again, I think it all falls back to what they're decided to put into marketing. And again, we don't know what their budget is, because if they've like stripped all of their marketing money for for commercials and ground forces to maybe put money into Game Pass, it's going to take them a couple of quarters to recoup some money and push it back into marketing. And I don't think that right now that's the number one focus.
Neil, we're also talking about Microsoft here, and I understand that every company has a budget, but at the same time, they're Microsoft. And if they want something to succeed, they're going to find the money to make it succeed. And I just feel like a lot of these things, the longer you wait, it's detrimental to them.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. Microsoft is excelling in all these other areas. They're making money hand over fist, but they can't spend money to buy development and spend money on Game Pass and spend money on market. Like, they have to, like, if what's the guy's name? Sanjay, I forgot his name. I'm not good with names. If the CEO says, okay, the game division is going to have
Satya Nadella.
Right. If he says your division is going to have $4 billion, you slice that pie however you need to. And everyone's telling them they need to buy development studios, which they have been. They're going to say, okay, out of that $4 billion, I need to spend $3 billion on development, and then we can wait.
You're talking a lot about like first party stuff, like buying a development studio to make a first party game. I'm just talking about at its core, at its most cores, just get some better, you know, name games in there. It doesn't have to be first party Microsoft titles.
Yeah, well, that's going to require them spending again. I know a big shout out to Mooch, who I owe a lot to for bringing me on the Crossfire podcast last year. There is a certain budget each company has, but what I would like to know. We'll never know this because we're not sitting at the table, right? We don't know if they've already made third-party marketing deals with certain titles. Like I'm expecting Shadow of the Tomb Raider to show up in Game Pass because they have a fantastic relationship with Eidos. And other companies have said that they are making money because of the awareness that Game Pass is putting on the title. I mean, perfect example. A big shout out to Free Jack, who made mention that at the end of the Sea of Thieves YouTube commercials, which were fantastic. I mean, every one of them had me literally, I watched almost all of them. I thought they were so funny. They have the Game Pass commercial at the end of it, you know, get it in Game Pass. And I did see that. I overlooked a bit. But I want to see more advertising. We've all said on numerous podcasts that they've taken a grassroots kind of approach. I don't think it's working. I think traditional marketing, meaning that you're going to get on the side of a bus, it means you're going to get a TV commercial. Like I am really surprised that we don't see a State of Decay 2 zombie commercial that ran 30 seconds. You know what I'm saying? You can show. I mean, if you recall, do you remember the commercial that they ran with Titanfall where they showed the guy at work and the mech was knocking at the glass? I mean, that was amazing. That was one of the best Microsoft commercials to date. People still talk about that. I'm one of them. So that means marketing does matter. So it would be nice to see them do some traditional marketing and see if they can, you know, instead of this grassroots approach. No one's saying to abandon that ideology, but maybe go back to the old school way that works. Putting it, showing up at NBA games or NFL games or hockey games, or, you know, putting the State of Decay logo on Yankee Stadium. You know what I'm saying? And I think a live action commercial that lasted, it didn't have to be a full on production. I mean, hell, they could have gotten some from YouTube to do it. Some of their, you know, these YouTube videos where they do costume or makeup artwork is just as good as the movies. You know, you hire a smaller indie team, which they like doing, and you do a State of Decay where it shows 4 survivors running from a zombie horde or scavenging, and they get into a firefight, and then the commercial ends. I mean, again, I'm no marketing guru. You know, I'm just some retired guy that's running his own podcast, but I think that would sell copies of the game, or at least get you to check it out in Game Pass. I don't know. I mean, you know, again, we're older gamers. We all started our video game retail stuff with Funkoland, and I'm going to say this, and Dan, Neo, you back me up on this. Back in the days when a new game was coming out, would a Nintendo representative show up the day before, make sure that the station was clean and that there was no dust and that the game was running on the Play console?
Yeah. Sometimes I hated seeing that guy.
Yeah, I mean, and if they came and it wasn't up to par, what would happen? Corporate would be giving us a call. You'd be getting a fax. You'd be getting a call like, "Hey, listen, the Nintendo rep just called me, or the Genesis rep just called me, and they're having a conniption. What's wrong with your store?" Yeah. And you know, again, it's those, like, okay, for instance. And after this, we'll move on to the next topic because I don't want to beat this horse too long.
Beat it.
You walk into a Walmart, right? You walk into a Target. You walk into a Best Buy. And what do you see on this? You're presented with, in your face, a working Nintendo unit you're presented with a working PlayStation unit, a PlayStation 4 Pro with the newest game. So God of War is probably running in Best Buy as we speak. People are standing around. They have the drool coming out of their mouth because they're like, oh my God, this is great. And you go over to the Microsoft, kiosk, and you see a launch Xbox One running Forza 4. So now this is what I'm talking about. I understand that these kiosks cost money, but when you're a billion-dollar corporation, I don't want to hear that you don't have the marketing budget or thought process to say, hey, maybe we should be putting an working X with Gears of 4 running, Gears of War 4, or hey, one of your 4K based games. Unfortunately, at this point, we don't really have a lot of first party big wigs that we can put. We have a lot of updated stuff, which still look fantastic. I mean, Rise Son of Rome still looks stunning. I just wouldn't put a game from 2013 on my X at a store if I'm looking people to buy the system. I'd be putting something new. What are your takes on the kiosks situation where Nintendo's doing it well, you can play the Switch. Sony's doing it well, you can play all their newest games on there. And unfortunately, Microsoft seems once again to have dropped the ball when it comes to that particular part of marketing.
I don't know, because I honestly, when I'm in Best Buy and I'm in those places, I do see, especially like GameStop. I mean, there are Microsoft kiosks there. I mean, I don't know. Honestly, I don't stop by to see what they're running. But on 9 times out of 10, if I'm just looking out the side of my vision, it's usually Forza running for whatever reason. I don't know why. But I mean, obviously it looks great. But I'm just saying, like, I don't know. I mean, I definitely see Microsoft stuff, but past the kiosk, I don't see anything. I don't see displays for games, but I don't know. What do you think, Neo?
Hello,
Neo?
Maybe he phased out for a hot second. Okay, well,
no,
hello?
I have my mic mute. Sorry.
Okay.
I buy digital now, so much stuff is digital. I barely go in there unless I'm really trading something in old or picking up something else. But I don't really see a lot of Xbox stuff popping out. Doesn't mean it's not there, but I mean I haven't seen anything that really knocks me out. I see more blue than I see green. So I mean that's the only thing I could probably say.
All right. Well, I mean, look, like I said, they have some issues to correct. I'm expecting that now that Phil Spencer is literally sitting at the right hand of the head honcho at Microsoft, that he is going to be given carte blanche, so to speak, to go crazy with marketing. So we'll see what happens. I'm excited for all three companies. I really want Microsoft to do better. But you know what? We're going to move into because again, we're classic gamers, right? We started real young. We are 8-bit players. Again, Neo and myself are still huge fans of the Commodore 64. I'm sure there's a few older gamers in the chat. I know Free Jack is definitely one of them. Classic gaming is on the rise, right? I mean, a big shout out to J Dubs, who has the Retro Renegades with Supersonic. They do that once a week, and they're playing classic games. Obviously, last year was the return of 8-bit graphics on a lot of the indie games, but I want to focus on compilations. Obviously, there was a tremendous amount of success with the NES and SNES Mini. Right? I mean, those sold as well as the new Nintendo Switch, which is just not shocking to me because everybody likes to play old games. But the fact that they made as much money with those that they did with the Switch is just, it's crazy. So now we're hearing in 2018, we're going to get a Genesis Mini. We're going to get a Neo Geo Mini. And my brother is super excited for this. A Commodore 64 Mini. The question I have for you guys and the chat: are you excited, or is it a pass for you? We'll go to Neo Mental first. What's your take on this, dude?
I I love and hate these things. The NES and the SNES Mini, I think that's the reason why we don't have the classic games in the Switch store, which I think would have probably made me keep my Switch. Listen, I mean, I got my two systems hooked up in the living room, and to have all those other things, and unplugging all that stuff. I'd rather just have the classic games. If you want to charge me $100 for all your classic games and I have it in the pack, I'm totally cool with that. Even if you sold the controller that plugged in or synced up to the Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, whatever have you, I'm with that too. I just don't like having all the different multiple systems and all that other stuff. I'm not really a fan of that. I think these things are cool for what they are.
Well, then how do you feel about like a Raspberry Pi?
I love it. I wish that it was like I said. If you want to charge me $100 for your whole category or something like that, I'm cool with that. If I had it on my my PlayStation, my Xbox, whatever have you, even better on the Switch because you can take it with you. So I think the concept is cool, but I think that's what's preventing us from getting these these classic compilations, like how they had the Namco classics for the PlayStation 1, I believe it was. That was great. I'd like to see something like that. But I mean, these things are cool in theory, but I think it's something I'm gonna hook up for a while, play it for a week, and then put it on a shelf as a collector's edition type thing. I think they're cool. I love those old games. I want to play like Kid Icarus on my Switch. I want to play the original Metroid. I bought all those games for the Wii. I wish I could use them. I almost feel like I should go buy another Wii U so I can get my my classic games back. But I'm definitely getting the Commodore 64 version. I'll probably get the Raspberry Pi. I know Jay did it because I think that's awesome. I want to have all those games at my fingertips in one system.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, it's nice to have those games. I think the biggest issue that I have with these retro systems is a lot of them are made like garbage, and if I feel something for an old system, I want it to, be made with care and love and reverence. I don't want it to just be thrown out there, with crappy emulation, which a lot of these do have. Like I was a big fan of, at least aesthetically, the Neo Geo X.
Yes.
Whatever the hell it was. And I mean, mine broke on me ultimately. It was not made very well, and the emulation was terrible. The Raspberry Pi, or even like an old, or even an Ouya running some, old emulation stuff, ran Neo Geo games way better than the X Gold did, which honestly is a travesty. It really is. So I would love to, buy all of these systems when they come out, but it's got to be done right. I mean, the Genesis one, the word on the street is that the emulation is not gonna be great on it, and the company who makes it makes a lot of crap.
Yeah, they do.
At games, and that really that sucks, man. So, especially, I mean, listen, if I had to have a retro system of anything, I would love a Dreamcast. That would be the greatest thing on earth. I don't know if they could do that, like just for, it was not a, you're talking about a disc-based system, but if dreaming wise, that would be awesome. But like I said, my main thing is have these things made well with perfect emulation.
Yes, that's a must.
That's a must. And this is coming from a guy who has, like, I guess I got to say, out of all these systems, the Neo Geo is the one that is closest to my heart. So, I mean, not only I have a Raspberry Pi with every Neo Geo game on it, and still every time, one of those ACA Neo Geos, come out for the PS4 or the Switch, I buy them all, which is crazy. But it is just something about it. So if I had like a Neo Geo that looked like a Neo Geo, just like the X Gold looked like it, but ran them great, I'd be in heaven.
Yeah, I agree. There's also talk now. Again, this is completely rumor, so take it with a grain of salt. We've all been waiting for the Virtual Console to come to the Switch, which again, I'm sorry if Super Mario, one of the older ones, let's say like the Super NES version, I bought it probably 5 times. And you know what? They'd probably get me to buy it again, because that is the kind of system you want to play that game on, right? I mean, I'm not a gigantic handheld kind of a dude, but to be able to play that game on the go, along with some of their other, older 8-bit classics, would be obviously phenomenal. There's rumors that this year we're going to get a mini N64. I don't know how many games they would have on it. I would imagine it would have to be at least 20. The question is, what would the price of this thing be? Because the SNES was $80, came with 21 games. The one being a game that was just released that particular day, which was the Star Fox 2. And that's, that very rarely happens where you get a game that old that releases as a new game. Would you guys be in the market to buy an N64 Mini?
It all depends. It all depends to if the N64 really meant anything to you. I have friends who the N64 was their thing, man. I have a friend who plays a big player in Smash, and I know that he'd be all over that. But that the thing is, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore. Yeah, if it means something to you, then yes. Like, I didn't buy the NES or the Super NES Mini because
you have a Cherry Pie that you probably have all those games.
I have a Raspberry Pi. Cherry Pie is a song from Warrant from the hair metal days.
Very nice, dude. Very nice.
Yeah, that's yeah. You know what I'm saying. If it means something to you, you know what? You'll come up with the money. You'll buy it. Listen, if the Neo Geo, if a new Neo Geo had great emulation and it was $100, even more than that, I spent $200 on the Neo Geo X Gold. Which
we both did. Yes. Yeah, I still have it. I don't play it, but I still have it. Yes.
Maybe you could sell it to me one day because mine broke.
This is coming from a guy that has, to this day, okay, little warp back to the past when we were kids growing up. He tried everything, and he knows what I'm talking about. That's how special this conversation is going to be, to get the Cyberbots special edition for the Sega Saturn from me. I mean, he offered.
We'll set the tone for. We used to hang out every Monday night to watch Nitro and Raw.
Yes, that's right.
We'd order a pie,
right,
and then we would just we would be staring at Boom's collection, and we all had large collections. My collection is pretty large in itself.
Yes, it is.
And at that point, everything was physical, and I would try some reason or another. That Saturn version of Cyberbots was like, I didn't want anything more in life than that. And I would offer him the kitchen sink for it, and he would never budge. Never.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that's what you guys are going to do is, because I'm able to run the show, you are going to be treated into a lot of what happened to me growing up with gaming and how it made a gigantic impression on my life. And these are obviously two of my closest friends. One, of course, is my brother. And, everyone has a past with gaming. Some it meant more to others. There are some people that just, buy 4 titles a year, and, it's Call of Duty, it's Madden, it's NBA Live, or NBA 2K and a wrestling game. But we have a lot of stories. These two gentlemen, we're going to be on again. There's no doubt about it. But what we're going to do is we're going to move on to, I think it's probably, it may be the last topic of the show, but I think it's so big that it's worthy of at least 30 to 40 minutes. And obviously E3 is going to be big this year. I think it's going to be big for all 3 companies, not just Microsoft. I think that Sony has already, emptied the chamber with all their big releases, and we don't know past 1 or 2 games what's coming out. So it's going to be a very interesting E3 for Sony, because we don't know what they have in the pipeline. Ghost of Tsushima is the only one that we really know, and there are a few other titles that we haven't seen yet. Was Shenmue 3, which I'm excited for. I mean, I'm a backer on that game, and I'm very interested. Yes,
I want to jump in because I mean, you guys know that Shenmue is
that's your
my
game.
favorite game of all time. It is the only game that I beat in Japanese before it came out. I don't know how the hell I did it. We're talking 20 years ago. Had the import of 1 and 2. I had FAQs printed out on paper. Like I must have like went through how many cartridges of ink to print that out, and just went through everything, deciphered everything, translated everything. It was the only game that when it ended, I felt like, I mean, a loss in my life. Like when it ended, Shenmue 1. And Shenmue 2 was great too, but it didn't have the impact that the first one did. So this third one, I have really, really bad feelings about it. It's not. I hope I'm wrong about this, but I've got some really like foreboding negative feelings about this. Like I really hope they don't drop the ball on this, but we'll see. I'm sorry.
Listen, this is a conversational podcast or show. You have something to say. You chime in, and I just want to. What I was going to say is the other title that I'm excited about, because I beat Final Fantasy VII in Japanese. My brother still doesn't believe I did it, and I did. I'm looking forward to the Final Fantasy VII remake. Like, I don't know. I'm worried about that game as well. It is Square, and they just take their time with their games. Sometimes it's 5 years, sometimes it's 7. Heck, sometimes it can be as much as 10. And I hope we don't have to wait that long for that game. Could you just imagine playing a Final Fantasy VII exclusive remake on the PS4 or even the PS5 at this point, with that story and just up-res graphics? It would be an event in itself. So I'm looking forward to seeing what Sony does. Nintendo, I'm excited. I think I'm gonna go into particulars because I have a prediction for each company to make it fair. But you know what? The guests are what make this show run. So we're gonna start with Jay the Destroyer. What is your first prediction for E3? Now, it doesn't have to be Microsoft. It could be any company you want. What is your first prediction that you think is going to happen?
It's not about what really is going to happen. It's just things that I'd like to see at E3.
Okay.
And they're all personal. So you actually jumped on mine already, and it was Shenmue 3.
Okay.
And I really hope it's there, and I hope the animations and everything is fixed. And again, I have a lot of trepidation towards this title, but I just really hope it works out. And overall, a lot of people think it's boring, and I totally get where they're coming from. I could see where they're coming from, but the people who get it, it was a life-changing game. It really was, and it changed how I looked at games afterwards. So that's going to be my number one. I hope it's there. I'd love to see it.
Okay, well, now we'll move on to Neo Mental. What's your first choice for what you want to see, or what is your first prediction for E3 2018?
I'm really looking forward to seeing anything from Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Oh, good one, dude. Yeah, that's good. Yes.
Yes, I mean, we got that teaser last year. I mean, they've been, cranking away for a full year now. I'm really hoping to see something solid from them. I love the first one. I'm actually thinking about I haven't played the remastered. Was it remastered or is it just backwards compatible? But I haven't played it so long. It was a great game. I really want to see something from them. I really, really want to see something from them.
All right, well, that's a Ubisoft game that we've been waiting for many years to play. I played the first one. I thought it was fantastic. I know you beat it, right? You beat the first one?
Yeah, I beat it. Was it initially on it wasn't in 64.
I think that was the OG Xbox, bro.
Maybe. Yeah, I played the original. I beat it. I think I got that game for free when I was working at GameStop. But yeah, I loved it. I loved that game. I think I beat it twice initially when I played it. Yeah, it was great. Loved it.
Well, my first prediction, and this is, you guys know me. I mean, I used to wait at the dock for the imports to come in, right? Like I used to be there waiting with my cash. Take my money, please. And you guys all know, and whether you know it in the chat or whether you know it as you know, as me being, you know, BoomStick on Twitter and YouTube, my favorite game of all time, that is still my #1 title. If you ask me, 20 years from now, I'm going to tell you it's the same game. That is Resident Evil 2. And we have been patiently waiting for any information, any screenshots, any gameplay for the Resident Evil 2 remake, which I mean, I believe it would be a stretch to say it's going to come out this year, but I think that it's not only going to show up on the Sony stage, because that's a, you know, obviously you think of Resident Evil and you think of PlayStation, right? I mean, that's where it all started. I think that this is going to be a March 2019 release, very similar, or not so much March. Resident Evil 7 launched at late January, and they had basically the whole month until March for themselves. That 3-month block to themselves to sell millions and millions of copies. I think that Resident Evil 2 Remake is going to get a gameplay trailer. We're going to get a release date for the first part of the year, and I think it's going to show up on the Sony stage. I think because of the history that game has with the PlayStation brand, that's probably the best place to show it. So now we're going to move on to the second one. Your second, Jada Destroyer. What's your second prediction for E3 2018?
Again, it's something that I would like to see, and I'd just like to see a new Gears of War. And I would really like to see, and I know it sounds crazy, but I don't want to see any more robots. I just want to, you know, I want to see Marcus again, and I wanted to get back to basics. I just want something simple and dumb, like just locusts straight up killing everyone in a straightforward story. And yeah, no more robots, no more downtime. Even though I loved the last Gears, I loved it. I beat it with my son on, you know, and it was a great moment, like in gaming for me. Like I'll never forget it. We beat it together, and it was just a great moment. And yeah, I'd like to see a new Gears, and I'd like to see it more back to basics.
Okay, that's well. Listen, I'm gonna.
I was just about to say that. I want Dom back. Damn it.
We don't want zombie Dom. We want regular Dom. Unfortunately, poor Dom is gone. Yeah. But
new hashtag. Bring back Dom. Bring back Dom. Bring back Dom.
So okay, so Neil, what's going to be your second prediction for E3 2018?
Shockingly enough, which should have been #1, but I'm hoping that we get a gameplay trailer or something for Division 2.
Oh, nice. That's a good one. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I'm waiting for that, man. I mean, hopefully they don't run the Destiny 2 route and screw it up. But you know, as much as I used to hate Ubisoft after, you know, the long string of Assassin's Creed, the last 4 games, man, they've been making me happy. So I want some. So I'm excited for some Division 2 news. I want to see a trailer. I want to see some. I'm hoping they bring the party size up. That'd be pretty good to get maybe 6 people in a group. But yeah, I'm excited to see what's going on.
Big shout out to UK Dazarus. He wants a Rise 2, which listen, I'm right there with him. Yeah, Rise 2 would be absolutely phenomenal. Just want to give a shout out to a few people that showed up in the chat. My buddy and good friend Jago, big supporter of my channel. I cannot thank him enough for that. Gunstar Hero, what's going on, my brother? Thanks for coming and showing up today, showing the support. It's greatly appreciated. Our good childhood friend that we grew up with, Brett Murphy, who told everyone that I took him to get his first original copy of Metal Gear Solid. Yeah, I do remember that, dude. That was nice. Fantastic game. That would be great as an actual ground floor remake. We'll never see that because Konami sucks. Sorry for that. Okay, so I'm going to go into my second one, and I have been banging this drum literally since I showed up on the Crossfire podcast last June. And that, of course, is the Splinter Cell title. Now, I don't know if it's going to be a remake or a continuation. I don't really think they need to remake the game, to be completely honest. I think they just need to maybe going a more tactical stealth direction. I like action, but a game like that is really the cornerstone of what makes it a Splinter Cell game is being tactical and being quiet. And I think, and this is just my prediction. I could be 100% wrong, and we will revisit all of these predictions when you guys return after E3. I think that not only is Splinter Cell going to be shown on the Microsoft stage running on the X, I think they're going to shock the world and make it a console exclusive. And I say that only because the original Splinter Cell started its life as an exclusive on the OG Xbox, and they have a really good partnership with Ubisoft. And we don't know if they might have teamed up and maybe gave Ubisoft some bucks, and they're publishing it as well. We don't know. But that's my second prediction. I would love to see the return of Sam Fisher. If you are an owner of Ghost Recon Wildlands, they added a mission where you meet Sam Fisher, which was dope. Hard as balls, but really good. I suggest checking it out if you have the game. So now we're going to move on to the third prediction, and we're going to go right to Jay the Destroyer. What is your third and final prediction for E3 2018?
I would like to see more on what CD Projekt Red is up to with Cyberpunk 2077.
Nice.
Oh yeah,
that's a good one.
Any kind of info would be great. I mean, those guys, they're friggin' masters, and what they have in store is probably insane.
Yeah, I mean, the game is going to be big. I mean, I think they've already said that it's twice the size of The Witcher 3, right? I mean, I can't even imagine that. Now, I know that for many people, Witcher 3 is the game of the generation, right? I mean, it's just an incredible title. I was overwhelmed by the size of it. So the idea that Cyberpunk 2077 is going to be twice that size, man, that game is going to take your life away. There's no doubt about that. So, I mean, we'll see. I mean, we all like those kind of games. Obviously, it's a strong single-player, story-driven title, and CD Projekt Red just knows how to do it. They just really are the fans' fan, if you will, when it comes to making their games. So, Neo, what's going on now? What's up with your third choice? What do you think is going to be your personal big surprise for E3?
I don't know. I think I'm about there. I think Microsoft is going to show us some stuff.
What do you want to see from Microsoft? Like what do you want to walk away from E3 after their presentation and be like, man, they just knocked it out of the park. This is what I wanted. What do they need to show you?
I want some aggressive games. I really do want to see some. Like I think a new Rise would be dope. A new Gears would be dope. I don't want them to just throw some stuff together. I want some some well thought out stuff. I want to see some stuff that's like, holy crap, man! Like I'm excited to put some money down on it. I want to see it. I can't wait. I want to stalk them. I want some games. I just really want them to blow me away. I definitely want to see something a little bit more than State of Decay and Sea of Thieves.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely. I'd like to see them. You know what? I would really like to see. This is not my choice. I didn't put it in there. But I would like to see them again shock the world and tell us that okay, Crackdown 3 is here. It's playable on the show floor. Here is an on-stage demo of the destruction that we promised you a couple of years ago, running on the cloud technology. Show 4 versus 4, just destroying the city and having a good old time, and say that it's available next week. You know what I'm saying? Like drop a bomb. Say, here we go. It's ready. You've been waiting. Here's a single player. Collect your 100, your 500 or 1,000 blue orbs, like we're all gonna do, like lunatics.
No, that's just you, bro.
Yeah, I guess, because I did get the first 500. There's no doubt about that. And I spent weeks finding that last one. It's ridiculous. That's what I would like to see from them. But I'm gonna. My last one is something that's been circulating the last couple of days, and I got to be honest. As a fan of gaming, not of a particular company, but of gaming, when you hear the possibility of a Microsoft and Nintendo making an E3 joint announcement, I don't care if you only play on the PlayStation 4. I don't care if that's your flag that you fly. As a gamer, that has to give you goosebumps. Like, I'm talking about it and I'm getting goosebumps right now. Like, that is exciting that two monster companies within this industry could erase the lines that separate the fandom and say we're going to do something together. And that comes into my third and final pick. I think personally that we are going to get an announcement at the Nintendo Treehouse event that Banjo and Kazooie are going to be added characters for Smash. And I think that is something that the fans have been asking for quite some time, because obviously Banjo and Kazooie started out with Rare on the N64. And I think that would be absolutely like megaton bomb level announcement. Again, if you don't have a Switch, I get it. But man, Smash is big. I mean, it is one of the biggest fighting games still to this day. There are people that still, like you said, you had a friend that still plays the original Smash, right? I mean, he would be down to buy that if it came out on an N64 Mini, and the game probably it looks horrendous, but it's not the looks, it's the gameplay and the memories that you have with that gameplay. So that's my third and final prediction. I mean, if you guys want to continue adding a few other picks, it doesn't necessarily have to be three. I mean, if do you have any ideas? I mean, what about the chat? I'm looking at the chat. What do you guys want to see from E3? Like, what are some of your predictions?
I just saw one that I agreed with from UK Dazarus, and it was, oh man, Ninja Gaiden. If there was a new Ninja Gaiden somehow or another that was made again with some kind of love and care, I would be all over that.
Now, I'm not sure if you guys have been keeping your ear to the floor. That's a rumor that was circulating since last E3 that Microsoft secretly partnered with Team Ninja to reboot the franchise as a console exclusive. And obviously, we know that they do have a working relationship with them simply because Ninja Gaiden and Ninja Gaiden Black were exclusive on the OG for years, the OG Xbox. So to see a gory, story-driven, over-the-top action where pieces of limbs are literally flying off of people as you cut them to shreds, that is something that is definitely missing from the portfolio. But I want to jump in here because this just popped into my head, and I seen someone mention it, and I'm sorry that I didn't see it because the chat is moving kind of quick, and this is very new to me. I would absolutely love to see Capcom reboot Dino Crisis. Wow. I think that game is severely forgotten about, and it was the first survival type horror game after Resident Evil that did everything right. The second one and the third one, not so much, but the first one, that was a masterpiece. What about you,
I'd like to see Capcom revive Cyberbots.
If they have a collector's edition, I'm going to order two.
So I can get it this time.
What about you, Neo Mental? What's another choice for you? Because like I said, I love this E3 talk. I think that it would be a shame to end it at 3, and we eventually have to end the show because people have to get back to their lives. But E3 is a big time of the year. It is basically the gamers' Super Bowl, if you will, and I think that it would be an injustice, so to speak, if we didn't talk some more about it. So, what else would you like to see?
I mean, out of the stuff that is actually think that we're gonna see, I can't really think anything on top of my head. I think a lot of people have covered that already. I mean, I would love to see. I mean, I'm a little over remasters. I think that, you know, it's like you remake a movie. Like I just saw a commercial that remaking an old movie, Overboard. I'm like, you know, there's only so much old stuff I can go back and play. You know, I'm a little past
Especially if you're remaking something that sucks.
yeah, you know, I mean, it's like, all right, you know,
Yeah, you don't want to do that.
You know, like they're redoing Dark Souls. That's great because I actually never played Dark Souls. I mean, I have, I think the backwards compatible version, but I'm gonna wait because you know why play that when I can play a remastered version? That's okay. But it's like all the Resident Evils and all this stuff. I'm not really a fan of those, and I think Capcom has way more IPs to be throwing money into. You know, they've had a lot of problems over the last few years with a lot of their games. But you know, I don't want to remaster anymore. You know, look how long it's taken Final Fantasy VII. We could have had a great new Final Fantasy at this point. We had, you know, what was it, 15 that just came out. That was a great game. Square Enix has a lot of good content. They had Parasite Eve. That was an amazing series. I think there was 2 games out of that. It was amazing. I like to see a new Parasite Eve. I like to see, you know, newer games going forward with some of these IPs they have. They have a lot of great stories. You know, was it Gunstar Hero just said Golden Axe with a rise treatment? That'd be freaking amazing. Like, you know, go forward. I mean, if you take a lot of these old IPs and give them new life. I mean, you look at Roseanne. I mean, they didn't go and remake Roseanne. They just said, hey, look, this is her life 20 years later, and it's doing phenomenal. I mean, shows leave and stuff like that because, you know, sometimes you don't want to keep piping money into it, or people want to leave and do different things, but there's no problem going back and revisiting it. You know, I think that there's a lot of stuff that you can go back and do and stop remastering the same damn thing. You know, it's like it's a new generation. All right, well, throw Resident Evil on the new generation. You know, it's still the same game with one new area. I want all new content. You know, so I'd like to see something like that.
On a not a different subject, but I would like to this E3 not to be jerked around, even though we are again, because I know they're nowhere near having any kind of gameplay footage shown. But I'd like to see a little bit of something gameplay of Death Stranding.
I think that has to. I think that actually. I think you're going to get it for a couple of reasons. One, the game has been worked on for quite some time. 2, Sony is in a very unique position that all of their games that they've shown over the course of the last 3 years they're out or will be coming out. And we know everything. We know all about them. Like I said, there are only a select few titles that are new that we don't know about. I would like to see. I know people are gonna be like, "Oh my God, Boom! That'll be the 4th year in a row." Days Gone. I'm very excited for that game because I like zombies. I know Mooch is a big fan of the zombie genre, and he's looking forward to that as well. If you're going to show some gameplay footage, my God, please don't let it be in that forest scene again with the guy on the bike. Let's take a different, you know, angle and show us some new gameplay. But getting back to, because you guys, listen, when we were kids, you know, I was very late to the internet. So Jada Destroyer used to get calls from me on a regular basis, and it used to go something like this.
Well, wait. Late to the internet. If I remember correctly, both of our first internet experiences were with the Sega Saturn Netlink.
Yes, that is.
We're not late to the internet. We were forerunners of the internet.
Well, I mean, you were definitely more savvy, but I would call him up on a rotary phone because, again, guys, we're old, so you know, sorry. And I would be like, "Hey, Jada Destroyer, any new Capcom news?" Like, I would go to him to try and get any new Capcom news. I mean, I think about it today, and it's hilarious. I mean, I know the chat or anyone that's going to watch this on the replay may not get it, but I was a ginormous Capcom fan. I mean, still am, for crying out loud. And this game, I'm sad that I didn't have it as my wish or choice of one of my top 3 because it was one of my favorite games outside of Resident Evil 2. And I would love to see a reimagining of Onimusha.
Someone in the chat had just mentioned that.
Oh, nice. Sorry. I missed that. Yeah, that's that Onimusha. I'm gonna tell you this. If you have a PlayStation 4 and you somewhat dig the Dark Souls kind of gameplay where it's very tactical, you should try Neo. Neo was the closest thing to an Animusha reboot that we've seen so far. And to be completely honest, I you know, Luca, who's a good friend of the show as well, is the queen of the Dark Souls franchise.
Yeah.
And of course, she tried to tell me how to play, and I absolutely suck at Dark Souls, but I don't suck at Neo. And I think it's because I played it more like an Animusha game than I did as a Dark Souls game. So, I mean, if you agree with me about there being a new Animusha, the closest you're going to get right now, unless Capcom shocks the world, is going to be Neo, which I think is going to be one of the games that's also going to be announced coming to the Xbox platform. I think that the recent deal with Phil Spencer getting more Japanese support is going to be good for the console. So listen, that is going to do it for the show. The topics, I hope they were extremely interesting. I just have to say a gigantic thank you to the chat. It has been complete fire. Everyone was very respectful. Any cursing that went on was due to their excitement of a particular game, or the fact that they're talking video game stuff, and that's perfectly okay. We like to keep it nice in the chat. We don't like people picking on one another. You guys are really fantastic. The chat was on fire. I just want to again thank the community for the unbelievable show of support that they have brought to me and made an old man's dream come true. I now want to just say thank you to my two guests. This is going to be memorable, not just because it's going to be on YouTube forever, but the fact that I have an incredible relationship with both these guys. We're friends since we were kids. We started at Funkoland 25, 30 years ago, and we're still friends to this day. And I just want to thank you guys, Jada Destroyer and Neo Mental, for coming on the show and giving your incredible opinions. I mean, you guys did fantastic. Jada Destroyer, where could people find you if they want to follow you?
They could find me on Twitter at jfaletta72, 2 L's, 2 T's. I just want to give a quick shout out to my boy who's covering me, Big BT, and a shout out to my other friends, Pocket Full of Shells, Reptar, Leech, and the man, Agent 4587.
Nice. And Mr. Shenanigans, also known as Neo Mental, my brother from another mother, literally. Where could people find you?
Well, if you're so inclined, Neo Mental, pretty much across the board. Twitter, PSN, Xbox. I mean, mainly on the Xbox. My boy Brett in the chat. We usually play in Division. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I want to give a shout out to him, my boy Bad Dog, RDG, my man Scott, and Outright Arrow. Get some Division going on tonight. Make up for some lost time.
Absolutely. Sounds fantastic. Well, listen.
I forgot to edit. I'm sorry. And I'm Jay the Destroyer on PSN, Xbox, and Switch. Sorry.
Okay. No. Listen. We want to find you. And I, of course, am your host, Mr. BoomStick XL. I do daily content. I try to get up at least one video a day. I'm not as good as some of the pro YouTubers like Randall Thor 19, who's also a friend of the show and will be on soon. And a good friend of mine also from the Crossfire podcast, the Crap Gamer. That guy, he puts in work. But once again, thank you guys for coming on the show. Thank the chat for coming out and putting on their own great show. And we will see you next Friday.